Another typical loss for the Cubs. Great starting pitching. Offense couldn't do much, and they lose late 3-2 to Milwaukee. Now there's 4 games left between now and the trade deadline. Could Justin Steele be a guy that's dealt away? And what kind of haul would the Cubs have to get back in return to give up the former all-star left-hander? Let's get into that right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Let's go. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie at Broadcaster Mick on the socials, and it is great to see you guys here today where we can talk some baseball and not the results that the Cubs wanted today. Yeah, they lost 3-2. Hector Neris, heart attack. Hector gave up a run in the 9th inning, and you wonder, even if he hadn't, would the Cubs have scored to win the game? I don't know. But another tough loss for the Cubs, and you can believe right now that it's over. I mean, there's no more speculating. Oh, are we going to sell? Or are we going to buy? I mean, what's going on? Bottom line is that this club is selling, and it's because they just haven't been able to figure out how to win close games, whether it's been the offense or it's been the pitching in the bullpen or it's been both. For whatever reason, this team just hasn't had the ability to score when they need to score or to get outs when they need to get outs consistently enough to be a contender. And now they're going to sell. So what does that mean? Jed Hoyer talked about having sights set on 2025. I said this before. This isn't a shot at Jed Hoyer, but it is really important for him right now to show leadership moving from this season, what happened last season and his entire tenure, to this next season and the moves that he's going to make to try to make the team a contender for next year. Some of you guys in the comment section have said, well, he's definitely, or he should definitely be on the hot seat. And in baseball, when you don't make the playoffs, you are on the hot seat when you're a front office. That's the way it goes. There are only going to be so many seasons that you're in a big market, especially, and you don't make the playoffs, that you're going to have your job. Now, I'm not saying that he's getting fired or he's not getting fired, but I'm telling you that right now, if he's going to maintain his position with the Cubs, he's got to show leadership moving forward and do some big things with this trade deadline. And there's a couple of ways, and we've talked about this, that the Cubs could go. You trade your players away for prospects, or do you trade them away to other teams for players that are on their team that aren't doing the things that they need to do, or maybe they're doing well, and you trade guys that are doing well for you for guys that are doing well for them, but maybe they match what you're trying to do a little bit more, and you really don't give up on the season. And there's a way to do that. So we'll see how he reacts, but the speculation is that the Cubs are going to deal a starting pitcher. And I've considered that person to be Jameson Taillon. Yesterday was good. He's been, one of the better pitchers in baseball. You're hearing a lot of smoke out of New York that the Yankees are willing to part with some of their best prospects. They need some help. They need third base. They could probably use an outfielder, and they definitely need some help in the bullpen and a starting pitcher. Maybe the Cubs make a colossal trade with the Yankees. These have been really good trade partners. Jim Hendry, who used to be the Cubs general manager, is there. He's got a good relationship with his former team. You've seen some of the deals that they've made, including sending Anthony Rizzo to the Yankees. Of course, Aroldis Chapman went to the Yankees in a deal with the Cubs to help them win the World Series. The Yankees are really close. That team and that city are thirsty for a World Series champion, and the Cubs with some really good players on this roster give them an opportunity to win. And there's not a whole lot of sellers right now when you look at it that have potential big time players available. Some of these other teams, they're not good because they don't have good players. The Cubs have good players that just didn't win. and there's a difference. But what about Justin Steele? In the post-game press conference, they started asking, hey, we're hearing that your name could possibly be one that's talked about in trades. Now, Justin Steele, if the Cubs were to trade Justin Steele, would have to get an enormous haul back, right? He's a really good pitcher. He almost, he was in the Cy Young award category last year up until the end. And then this year, since he's been back and healthy, today was another really good start for him. Got into a little trouble in the first. What I love about him, though, is when they came to take him out of the game because of these pitch counts that we're so worried about every day when these guys pitch, he didn't want to get out. He wanted to stay in the game. He was frustrated. I love to see that fire. First off, because I think that some of this stuff is absolutely BS. The other thing is that he cares. He's not the kind of player that you really want to give up. But if I was the Yankees and I'm saying, hey, I'll give you can have my top prospects. That's the kind of guy I'd want pitching for me in the postseason. I'd want to bring that fire and that intensity to New York. So who knows? Maybe that'll be a situation that, we see. Hopefully not. And now Steele was asked about it in the post-game press conference, and he's like, hey, man, the only GMing I do is during fantasy football. So good for him. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Justin Steele. Now, the bullpen is another area where there are going to be some valuable pieces out there. And, you talk about this bullpen that honestly lost the game today with Neris, but it was only one run. The rest of it has been pretty solid, and they've been the best in baseball since June 27th going into the day. So who could be dealt away from the bullpen? That's another question. And I'm thinking that if I was a team out there, I would look at Mark Leiter Jr. Maybe somebody would want a Hector Neris. Maybe somebody would want Julian Merriweather if he's healthy and he's back out there. And maybe there's some other guys out there that could get Drew Smiley. And think about him. Now, he's actually put together quietly a good season. I think the Cubs would trade any of those guys. If you're looking at what this team's going to look like in the future, it depends on what you get back. And I think that's the most important thing that we look at as this trade deadline approaches. But there's no question anymore that this team is a seller and not a buyer. We know that. But how deep are they willing to go into this roster to trade? Now, I've heard Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s name. We did a video on that. That would be one of those deals where, hey, maybe you give up some of the guys on your big league roster and we give up some of the guys on our big league roster. But I'll tell you this right now. If the Cubs trade prospects in some of these deals, I don't think that's the right direction. Even for a potential star player like Vlad Guerrero Jr., I'd be more comfortable trading guys off the major league roster and keeping the wave of talent that has gone off from, basically being drafted or traded from other teams all the way to AAA and the big leagues. And the Cubs ought to have a priority right now on how can we get the guys that are dominating in the minor leagues to dominate in the big leagues. I think that's the question they've got to ask themselves. That's where they need to be putting a lot of their emphasis outside of what these deals are right now in this organization. And maybe they are, but that's got to be the question that they answer. How can we? And that's a tough question to answer. And I think that Craig Counsell has helped out a lot in the major leagues with the way that he's helped that transition. So anyway, Anthony will be on tomorrow morning with a show. Just wanted to put that out there. Cubs will be making some deals. When they do, you can count on us. We'll be here as quick as we can to break it down. But it's not the season that we thought it would be, but it's going to be really interesting to see where the Cubs go with some of these deals. Now, you're just hearing a lot of Yankees, but who knows? There's some other teams in there. Baltimore has a bunch of prospects, and they could definitely use a frontline starter to go with Corbin Burns. If they're gonna get into the playoffs, they don't want to get overpowered like they did last year by the Rangers. And also you would look at all those young good players, but you might want some guys like a Cody Bellinger that's already got a World Series ring. Not that there's a spot for him, or maybe you go out and get, somebody like a Jameson Taillon if you're Baltimore that you'd have control over for another year and has experience and has looked really good here this season. So thanks for hanging. Like and subscribe. Get in the comments section. We'll talk to you there, and we'll see what happens as this thing moves forward. Go Cubs.